Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli back with another review video, and of course, continuing on the Star Trek marathon. Now, we've come to Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. Yes, so, taking place just a little bit after the events of the Wrath of Khan and the Genesis planet, happening, and with Spock's death and leaving his body on the planet Genesis, and the Enterprise being heavily damaged after the attack of the Reliant, on their way back to Sector 001, home, Earth, and space dock. It's and again, once again, the music by James Horner, fantastic, and this time Leonard Nimoy directing this film. So yeah, a film that's all about Spock, the search for Spock, and yet Leonard Nimoy is the director. But and Leonard Nimoy, he was a fantastic director. So, and he knew exactly what he was doing when it came to say directing Star Trek. So, we also have, of course, the main antagonists, the Klingons, and Christopher Lloyd. His performance as Commander Krug, he was a great Klingon, and I know that because I forgot to mention this, when I started the Star Trek marathon in the Wrath of Khan. I'd heavily considered Little Blue, my dad that is, joining me reviewing the Star Trek films, and it seemed like it was gonna happen, but as of now and at the very last second, it just came down to me, and I'll have probably, excuse me, I'll be having a guest star, in later on in the Star Trek marathon. So anyway, so I know that if Little Blue were here and, reviewing the Star Trek films with me, he would be saying a lot, and especially because, for example, Christopher Lloyd as Krug, I'm telling you, yeah. But anyway, so Christopher Lloyd as Krug, he's fantastic as a Klingon, and I think, because even Christopher Lloyd, he did say that, he considers it one of his favorites, or, right next to, say, Doc Brown. I don't see why not. And, because this was a year before he would be Doc Brown in Back to the Future. First, he was a Klingon, and then the next year, he was Doc Brown, as we all know and love. And the first appearance of, say, the Klingon Bird of Prey and Space Dog, just amazing. And once again, the visual effects by ILM, just fantastic as always. And also the first appearance of the Excelsior. Yes, and that's actually my dad's favorite ship. Yeah, he would be going all on saying that, talking about the Excelsior. And I read about this, that the designer for the Excelsior stated this, that what if the Japanese designed the USS Enterprise? Perfect fit, yeah. Makes perfect sense. But anyways, and also first appearance of a couple of other ships, the one ship that makes its way to the Genesis planet, and we of course get the return of, say, David and Saavik, this time being played by Robin Curtis. And you know what? Robin Curtis was not that bad as Saavik. And if I recall, yes, James Sykin, if I'm saying the last name right, is Captain Styles, the captain of the ship, and also some of the Klingons, John Larroquette is one of them, named Maltz, if I'm saying that right. And also, we get one brief appearance of Grace Lee Whitney, best known for being Yeoman in the first season of Star Trek, the original series, but of course would return as the role of Yeoman, making small appearances and having almost a big part, in Star Trek 6, which, we'll get to that later on, of course. And so, and apparently because the Fleet Admiral, played by Robert Hooks, tells the crew of the Enterprise that, because the Enterprise is about 20 years old, that that Starfleet feels that her days in space have come to an end and being decommissioned. And we get the first appearance of Sarek in the Star Trek films, played by Mark Leonard, and Sarek not being too pleased about Spock being left behind Genesis. Why did you leave Spock on Genesis? Spock trusted you, and you deny his future, or just whatever. And just like in the and what happens in like say in the Wrath of Khan, and we see in this like because Spock did that to McCoy, remember, and Sarek at first tries to search for it in Kirk, but it's not there, and even when like Kirk found McCoy in Spock's quarters that he had locked up, and McCoy kind of talking funny and just unexpected, and help me, Jim, take me home. It's just and so yeah, because a part of Spock is in McCoy, so. And that's another thing is, David and Saavik going down on the Genesis planet, and they discover the torpedo that Spock was in. Spock's body is not there, and they hear some screaming. And actually, because, Frank Welker, he's credited for doing Spock screams, so, and they find Spock, who's this little Vulcan child, and basically, like, the Genesis planet is kind of rebirthing Spock, I guess you could say. The Klingon ship coming in, destroying the starship that David and Saavik were on, and it's just them and Spock that are left stranded on the planet. And, like, the Klingons, like, well, that's our thing, too, like, Krug is looking for prisoners, and, I just like it because when they fire on the starship, when the Klingon bird of prey fires on the starship, he's just, Kamapu, shutane! And because he was pissed off at the one Klingon that fired on the starship, I wanted prisoners! And there's one other Klingon that informs Krug that there are prisoners, on the surface. If it's prisoners you want, there are life signs. And that's like he's like the calmest Klingon I know of. Like, I've seen that's great. And so, because like Krug and two other Klingons, they go down on the planet, and also back at Space Dock and at Earth, Kirk, Uhura, Scotty, Chekhov, and Sulu, like, planning to set up a plan to steal the Enterprise. Kirk and Sulu break out McCoy because, McCoy going a little too crazy, and Uhura transports them from the Excelsior to the Enterprise, and Scotty meeting them there, and they get control of the Enterprise. The Excelsior is ordered to stop the Enterprise, and they get out of Space Dock by, the doors opening, and the one captain, the captain of the Excelsior, is this him? No, wait a minute. No, I think it is Captain Styles. My mistake. But what about the captain, like, of the other starship? I'm not seeing him, but yeah, okay. But anyway, so Captain Styles of the Excelsior, my mistake, not the captain of the other starship that the Klingons destroyed, with a mustache and so on, and he calls out to Kirk, on comm, like, Kirk, if you do this, you never sit in the captain's chair again. But you know what? Kirk has to do what he has to do. Go save his friend, Spock, of course. And so the Enterprise escaping, and apparently, I don't know, with the Excelsior, it's out of gas, I want to say. It literally makes that kind of sound like it's like they ran out of gas, I want to assume, but it's kind of funny. And when the Enterprise makes its way to the area with the Genesis planet, and that cool standoff between the Klingon bird of prey and the Enterprise, and again, James Horner's music is fantastic. Like when the music that was playing for the Enterprise being stolen, and when it came up to when the bird of prey decloaks, fantastic. The great late James Horner, I'm telling you. Even like on the bird of prey, like even Krug had a like pet kind of like dog or something, like a devil dog. I don't even know, but even that his pet gets killed, because after when the Enterprise first fires on the bird of prey, and bird of prey firing on the Enterprise, and both are a bit damaged, and that's they don't continue fighting. And one sad part is when some of the Klingons that are still on the Genesis planet and have all three of them held hostage, one of them is going to be killed, and I think, the Klingon was going to go for Saavik, or maybe, no, it was either Saavik or I think he was going for Spock, and David jumping into the chance and like tackling the Klingon. They both go down on the ground, and the Klingon stabs him. You hear that sound, like that David makes, and David, he's murdered, and when Savick tells Kirk that, Admiral, David is dead, and Kirk just falling to the ground on the bridge, and, Klingon bastards who killed my son. And come on, like, this was an emotional scene here, and Shatner's dialogue and performance he gives for Kirk, just amazing, and just Klingon bastards, you killed my son, because Kirk, because he lost his flesh and blood, his own son, and that's where, that's where Kirk now, because blames the Klingons and he hates the Klingons right there and then, because they killed his own boy. And, Kirk and the others, they have no choice but to destroy the Enterprise, self-destruct. And it's so great, because, the Klingons killed his son, well, he gets them back by, having them transport, having most of the Klingon crew transport on the Enterprise, and they all die in the self-destruct. That's the best revenge for Kirk, Yeah, they totally deserved it. So yeah, and just that whole scene with the Enterprise destruction, quite emotional. I think even Little Blue would be saying something like that too. Because this was the Enterprise that was first seen ever in Star Trek. The first ship ever seen, and from the original series, and when it got refitted, and as it's burning down and to the planet, and Kirk saying, "My God, Bones, what have I done? What you had to do, what you always do, turn death into a fighting chance to live." Well spoken by McCoy. And of course, when they make their way to Spock, and because he's aging with the planet, basically, Spock is, and he's now back to his right aged self, of Leonard Nimoy, and Krug coming down and ordering his ship to transport all of them except for Kirk and Spock, and a fight between Krug and Kirk. And that's kind of the first time they meet face to face, and right as they're up to a cliff, and Krug has a hold of Kirk's shoe, and Kirk's smacking him in the face with his other shoe, "I have had enough of you," and Krug falling down to his death into the flaming pits, and as the planet is destroying itself, and thus, the Enterprise crew, they've got control of the bird of prey, and they proceed on, and getting out of the way of Genesis being destroyed, and on their way to Vulcan. And Kirk's saying as they leave Genesis, "Goodbye, David." So yeah, and when they make their way back to Vulcan, Uhura's there, and with Sarek, and the ceremony that happens of resurrecting Spock, and with McCoy, helping as well, because what was inside of McCoy back to Spock, as I said, part of Spock is in McCoy, and it's all being brought back to Spock himself. And the last bit of dialogue between Spock and Kirk, and, "Jim, your name is Jim." Yep, and the music, playing at the end, very nice, and that eyebrow raise that Spock gives, and you can see, Kirk just, laughing and such, and the last shot of Vulcan, the buildings, and, the adventures continue, and thus we know what is next. The search for Spock, Star Trek 3. You know what? Because I guess from what I heard, there are some people that do and do not like this. It's kind of mutual for this film, but overall, it's still a great Star Trek film. I don't see why not, because, the search for Spock, and, this is part of this Star Trek trilogy, starting with the Wrath of Khan, and then after that, the search for Spock, and what would come next. That would be another great Star Trek film. And what's next. So, how do I rate the search for Spock? Good question. 8 out of 10. Why not? 8 out of 10 stars for the search for Spock. You guys let me know what you think of the search for Spock, what you thought of my review. Leave comments as always, and give this review a like. And yep, and what's next. Star Trek 4 with the whales. So stay tuned for that. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of The Search for Spock. More reviews coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video/review. Take care, and, yep, the Star Trek Marathon's still continuing. Peace out. and live long and prosper.